Tuesday, the 2nd of March 2021. Today's LF is to compare the setting from The Gruffalo to the setting from Room on the Broom. These are books both by Julia Donaldson, and the settings are different. Today's starter is to use adjectives to describe where the character could live. So here is a character from another Julia Donaldson book, The Snail and the Whale. So this is a snail, and I would like you to pause the video here and think about adjectives to describe where this snail could live. It could live anywhere. It could live in the ground, it could live on the whale, it could live in a bush, it could live in the mud, it could live in a fantasy world. Have a think, where would you like the snail to live? And think of adjectives that will describe where they live. I've got some adjectives around the picture which might help you. And maybe you have come up with some of the same. The setting will be quiet for the tiny, shy snail. It might be wet, green land. The snail could live in a damp, cold, muddy field. The setting could smell moist and damp. It could be on the back of an enormous mammal. The snail could live in a big, scary world, but it is fantastic for exploring. What did you come up with? So this is going to be our story for the week. Room on the Broom by Julia Donaldson. She is the same author who wrote The Gruffalo, which you did last week with Mrs. Redmar. The witch had a cat, and a very tall hat, and long ginger hair which she wore in a plait. How the cat purred, and how the witch grinned, as they sat on their broomstick and flew through the wind. But how the witch wailed, and how the cat spat, when the wind blew so wildly it blew off her hat. "Down!" cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the hat, but no hat could be found. Then, out of the bushes, on thundering paws, there bounded a dog, with a hat in his jaws. He dropped it politely, then eagerly said, as the witch pulled the hat firmly down on her head, "I'm a dog, as keen as can be. Is there room on the broom for a dog like me?" "Yes," cried the witch, and the dog clambered on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh! They were gone. Over the fields and the forests they flew. The dog wagged his tail, and the stormy wind blew. The witch laughed aloud and held on to her hat, but away blew the bow from her long ginger plait. "Down!" cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the bow, but no bow could be found. Then, out from a tree, with an ear-splitting screech, there flapped a green bird with a bow in her beak. She dropped it politely and bent her head low, then said, as the witch tied her plait in a bow, "I am a bird, as green as can be. Is there room on the broom for a bird like me?" "Yes," cried the witch, and the bird fluttered on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh! They were gone. Over the reeds and the rivers they flew. The birds screeched with glee, and the stormy wind blew. They shot through the sky to the back of beyond. The witch clutched her bow, but let go of her wand. "Down!" cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the wand, but no wand could be found. Then all of a sudden, from out of a pond, leapt a dripping wet frog, with a dripping wet wand. He dropped it politely, then said with a croak, as the witch dried the wand on a fold of her cloak, "I am a frog, as green as can be. Is there room on the broom for a frog like me?" "Yes," cried the witch. So the frog bounded on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh! They were gone. Over the moors and the mountains they flew. The frog jumped with joy, and broom snapped in two. Down fell the cat and the dog and the frog. Down they went tumbling into a bog. The witch's half of the broomstick flew into a cloud, and the witch heard a roar which was scary and loud. I am a dragon, as mean as can be, and I'm planning to have witch and chips for my tea. No! Cried the witch, flying higher and higher. The dragon flew after her, breathing out fire. Help! Cried the witch, flying down to the ground. She looked all around, but no help could be found. The dragon flew nearer, and licking his lips, said, Maybe this once I'll have witch without chips. But just as he planned to begin his feast, from out of the ditch rose a horrible beast. It was tall, dark, and sticky, and feathered and furred. It had 4 frightful heads. It had wings, like a bird. And its terrible voice, when it started to speak, was a yowl and a growl and a croak and a shriek. It dripped and it squelched as it stood from the ditch, and it said to the dragon, Buzz off, that's my witch. The dragon drew back and he started to shake. I'm sorry, he spluttered. I've made a mistake. It's nice to have met you, but now I must fly. And he spread out his wings and was off through the sky. Then down flew the bird, and down jumped the frog. Down climbed the cat, and phew, said the dog. And thank you, oh thank you, the grateful witch cried. Without you, I'd be in that dragon's insides. Then she filled her cauldron and said with a grin, Find something, everyone, throw something in. So the frog found a lily, and the cat found a cone, the bird found a twig, and the dog found a bone. They threw them all in, and the witch stirred them well, and while she was stirring, she muttered a spell. Iggity, ziggity, zappity, zoom! Then out rose a truly magnificent broom, with seats for the witch and the cat and the dog, a nest for the bird and a shower for the frog. Yes! Cried the witch, and they all clambered on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Here are 3 different settings from the story Room on the Broom. So we've got the lake in the forest, we've got the pond, and we've got the bush and the bushy forest. So we're going to create a bank of adjectives for different settings in the story. So let's look at some that I have put together already. So the lake in the forest. Look down this column. So I have created some adjectives that you might have. It could be wet or damp. It's neatly kept. It doesn't look too overgrown. It has a light blue lake. It's untouched by humans. Could be. It might have a deep lake, and the water is clear. Now let's look at the setting of the pond. It could be wet and squelchy. It has long green leaves growing from the water. It could be a shallow, cold pond rather than a deep, cold lake. It's reflective because water's reflective. It could be a quiet pond so there isn't much noise around. And it might be a still pond so that the water isn't rippling. And finally we have the bush setting. It could be damp under my feet. It looks very overgrown. It has thick, wide bushes. It might be noisy from all of the animals that live there. It might be enchanted. And it has lots of different shades of green. Pause the video now and see if you can add any more adjectives to these columns. And these will help you compare the settings. Our LF today is to compare two settings, one from the Gruffalo and one from Room on the Broom. So I have chosen the pond from Room on the Broom and the forest from the Gruffalo. So hopefully you have wrote down some adjectives and kept them in your word bank so that it will be easier for you to put adjectives into your settings. So we need to compare the two settings. So what's the same and what's different? I can see lots of things that are different already and lots of things that are the same. This is what you would like to put in your paragraph. So let's look at one that I have done and we can do it together. The pond from the story Room on the Broom is a small pond, but the forest from the story The Gruffalo is a never-ending forest, and I could get lost in there if I wasn't careful. So there's a difference there. The pond is small, but the forest is very, very large because it is never-ending. So I've compared them there because I said that they're not the same, they're different. Both the forest and the pond have many green, healthy plants growing there. So that's a similarity. So the pond and the forest both have lovely green leaves. So I am comparing them because they are similar. This might mean that different characters like to live here as they have food that they can eat. So there might be squirrels living in the forest because they can eat the leaves. There might be ducks, and there might also be ducks at the pond. The forest has many large grey rocks in it, but the pond doesn't. So that's a difference there because the forest has rocks but the pond doesn't. My favourite setting is the forest setting because I don't like being wet, and I may fall into the pond and get wet. So after you've compared the settings, you might want to put what your favourite setting is. Is it the pond, or is it the forest, or is it a different setting that you have chosen? And your moving on comment will be to highlight all of the conjunctions that you have used in red. So our conjunctions again might be because, or, but, so, if, when, that. So try and add in conjunctions as well to help you. Go to the assignment page on Teams and this will be here for you, and pictures of different settings that you might want to use. I look forward to seeing your work.